You know that sinking feeling when you open your laptop to do something important, but instead you find yourself 3 hours deep into watching YouTube videos? Why do we procrastinate even when the anxiety of delaying is always worse than just getting the task done? Today, I'm going to share with you common causes of procrastination and some of the most simple mindset shifts that you can use to beat procrastination, increase your productivity without more discipline. By the end of this video, you'll learn exactly how to rewire your brain to see challenges differently and finally stop procrastinating for good. You might be surprised to learn that one of the most common causes of procrastination stems from fear. Fear of not being qualified, smart, or experienced enough. If you're used to being a top performer, suddenly stepping into something new can feel really uncomfortable. Let's say you're trying to write a business proposal for the first time. Instead of thinking, I've never done this before, look at it differently. You're applying something you already know in a different way. A business proposal basically requires research, persuasive writing, and clear organization. Think about any big decisions you had to make in the past. Maybe it was choosing a laptop, picking out a phone plan, or deciding which restaurant to go for that special occasion. You read reviews, looked at your options, and weighed out the pros and cons until you felt confident with your choice. And that's the skill you need for market analysis. Have you ever convinced someone of something? Writing an email for a refund, getting your colleague to work on this project, or getting someone to eat healthier? That's persuasive communication right there. Now think about any complex situations you've coordinated. Planning a trip, managing your weekly schedule. You would have juggled different pieces of information and made it all work together. See, you're not a beginner. You are someone who can thoroughly research, persuade, and organize. You just haven't applied those skills in a business proposal yet. Procrastination can also come from the fear that you have to get it right the first time. It prevents you from getting better because you can't improve what doesn't exist. That perfect version in your head is always going to seem better than any real attempts. Let's say you're trying to get better at managing money, but you keep putting it off because of the fear of looking at your bank statement. Instead of seeing those numbers as past mistakes, look at it this way. You're running experiment to see what financial habits work best for your specific personality and lifestyle. This will help remove the feelings of shame and guilt, replacing it with curiosity. For your first experiment, you could be tracking your spending for 1 month without trying to change anything. You might discover, oh, for the week that you were stressed at work, you spent $200 on takeout that week. Then you can test out different budgeting methods. Maybe the 50-30-20 rule feels too restrictive, but having separate sub-accounts just makes sense to you. Or having automatic transfers feels too rigid, but setting a maximum daily spending limit helps you stay on track. That's not failure. That's valuable data you've gathered about how your brain works with money. But what if I keep overspending? Then I'd never get out of debt. I'll be kicked out of my apartment and I'll ruin my credit score and fail at being an adult. Okay, stop. This is catastrophic thinking. When your brain jumps to the worst case scenario, any task feels 10 times scarier than it actually is. If I mess up this presentation, everyone's going to think I'm incompetent. I'll be fired, I'll be homeless, and this will ruin my entire career. Next time you catch yourself imagining disaster, just ask, what is the actual worst case versus what I'm imagining? If this happened to my friend, how big of a deal would it actually be? And would it still matter in 5 years' time? Usually, our imagination is way worse than reality. For that presentation fear, the actual worst case might be that you stumbled on a few words, you looked a little bit nervous, maybe forgot the point. That's it. People have short memories, and they're usually too focused on themselves to judge you that harshly. If it happened to your friend, you'd probably just shrug and said, that happens to everyone, and then forget about it in a week, let alone 5 years' time. But here's a real game changer. create a recovery plan for every scary scenario. Because when you know exactly what you'll do when something goes wrong, that helpless feeling disappears. If you blank out while presenting, just say, "Let me refer to my notes for those exact details," and then look at your index card. If someone asks a question you can't answer, respond, "That's a good question. I don't have those specific details with me right now, but I'll get back to you after the meeting." Once you have concrete plans, your brain stops seeing the task as potential disasters you can't handle and start to see it as challenges you're prepared for. So then, why does the task still feel impossible to start? Well, you might be experiencing the giant monster effect. Your brain is overwhelmed by this complex, challenging task and doesn't know where to start. All you need to do is make the first step so small that it feels silly not to do it. Instead of writing, "Prepare for job interview," and avoiding it for weeks, break it down across an entire week. For Monday, you research the company for 15 minutes. Tuesday, prepare answers to 3 common interview questions. Wednesday, pick out your outfit. Thursday, you can plan your travel and timing. And Friday, practice with a friend or just in front of a mirror. By the end of that week, you've made so much progress without even having to face that giant monster. The truth is, the giant monster was just several completely normal, manageable tasks in a bundle. You can also mentally rehearse the steps you'll take to complete that task. This might sound silly, but just thinking about the actions actually make the task more familiar, less intimidating, and easier to start. Try it out for yourself and let me know how you go. There's one problem I didn't see coming. Mistakes are going to happen, and the all or nothing mentality is going to turn one bad moment into a domino effect. Someone decides to commit to a healthy lifestyle, so they set up their alarm for 6 a.m. for that morning jog. But then life happens. Maybe a work emergency, or they simply couldn't drag themselves out of the bed. Then they think the day is ruined. They've already failed, so why bother trying for the rest of the day? They skip breakfast, grab fast food for lunch, and scroll on their phone all day, because I've already messed up anyway. But here's a quote I heard that stuck with me. You can start a diet halfway through a bag of chips. It's completely okay to slip up, miss a workout, eat poorly, or scroll on your phone. You can literally get back on track anytime. The next meal, the next hour, the next minute. When I ditched the all or nothing mentality, everything changed. I used to look at the pile of dishes in my sink and think, I don't have time to wash all these dishes before I have to go to work. But then the dishes would just pile up because I rarely have a big chunk of time to clean the whole kitchen. But now, even when I only have 2 to 3 minutes before I have to leave work, I wash one single plate. Because we all have more 2 to 3 minute pockets here and there throughout the day than we have a whole block of 30 minutes free time. The magic is understanding that doing something is infinitely better than doing nothing. Sometimes uncertainty keeps us stuck. If you've been waiting for the right moment to take action, just remember the best time to start was yesterday, and the second best time is today. I want to challenge you to choose imperfect moment to start something. Instead of thinking, I'll start exercise when work is not so busy, when I get my gym clothes, or when the weather warms up. Start today, tired, in your regular clothes, just for 3 minutes following an at-home workout video. Would your future self thank you for starting now imperfectly, or for waiting for that perfect moment? The answer is pretty clear, right? The same goes for your energy level. Instead of waiting for that perfect energy, you're going to start working on the task with whatever energy you have. This could be tackling complex, challenging tasks on your high energy days. Medium energy, you do practice exercises. Low energy days, just organize your notes. And if you have zero energy, just try to recall what you learned the day before. Just this week, I caught a horrible cold. The old version of me would have said, I can't work on my YouTube channel until I feel better and lose that entire week. But instead, I matched the work to my energy level. I couldn't film or write scripts with my pounding headache and sore throat, but I could watch tutorials on editing and thumbnail creation, and those low energy tasks still move my channel forward. The magic of energy matching is that it eliminates the excuse of I don't feel like it, because there's always something you can do, even if it's just 1% of what you planned. But there is another mental trap that is probably happening to you right now as you're watching this video. You're eager to finally get started, but there are so many different ways you can approach the task. Do I start with a research, draft an outline first? What method do I use? Your brain gets exhausted from trying to decide before you even get started with doing the actual work. First, set a limit on research time before you have to make a decision. Give yourself 30 minutes max to decide what approach you use to start getting fit. Don't spend weeks researching different workout or diet. Just pick the first reasonable option, even if it's just a simple morning routine. You'll learn far more from implementing 30 days of an imperfect system than trying to research the perfect system for 3 months. For recurring tasks, you'll want to create a default action flowchart. This eliminates decision fatigue by having predetermined rules. For example, if you don't know what exercise you'll do that day, you default to 20 minutes of at-home workout in the morning. This default rule removes the mental burden of having to make decisions over and over again. And that is how you start rewiring your brain to automatically skip the procrastination trap. But there's no use of having the right mindset with an exhausted body. If you're someone who comes home from work totally drained and wastes the entire evening on scrolling or watching Netflix, I have the perfect video for you. That video will show you how to stop your 9 to 5 from taking over your entire life, breaking the cycle of collapsing onto the couch as soon as you get home, and finally getting the time to spend on things you truly enjoy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you over there.